Welcome back to another Scars and Stripes podcast here with Jerome Redmond, a great friend of mine that I've known probably for about 5 years now. It seems like maybe 5, 6 years, something like that. Mm-hmm. Great entrepreneur, American trucking training American truck training, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep. You got it.
In Oklahoma City. He's a man of the Lord. He's also has veterans in his family. Mm-hmm. And my goodness, does this man love this country?
Yes, I do.
And so I'm excited about this one for multiple reasons. Some topics we were talking about offline I'd love to talk about, and can't wait to get to that because I just think you have a good perspective on that, some that might be a little bit different than others. But I just want to take it back a little bit and just tell us a little bit about Jerome and where you came from, how you became. I know you have been in highway for a long time and roads, and how you get across from point A to point B in a safe manner. So tell us a little bit where you started from and how you got in to own your own trucking business. It started in 2013.
Yeah, I am really a product of the American dream. I'm by all accounts. If you look at the stats, I should not be successful, but because, I'm originally from Chicago, South Side, very poor, all those kind of things. But, there was love, and that's a lot of times that's what all a kid really needs. Because, you don't know how everyone knows. Yeah, you don't know that you're poor until you get out of that poor. You don't know that because everyone else lives the same way, right? So fast forward, my family, my mom and pop moved us from Chicago when I was a little kid to Oklahoma, and when I was like 7 years old, and just fell in love with the people here because they were so nice. I didn't understand how so many people can be so nice all the time. And when we were talking about folks in in describing Oklahoma to other states, we say, well, we get to a four-way stop, but we argue, and you're shaking your head because you know what I'm talking about, right? You get to a four-way stop, and you argue about who gets to go first. You go, oh, no, you go first. No, you go first. That is Oklahoma for you right there. So and I love that about our state.
And it is rare, though.
Yeah, it is rare. It's not like that in other states. I've been around, but anyway, so fast forward a little bit more. I went to high school at Booker T. Washington in Tulsa, went to college at Grambling for a little bit, and then transferred to Northeastern State in Tahlequah, which is where I got my degree, and where I also met my wife of 32 years now. So and I'll even tell you, September 10th, 1991, on a Tuesday, at about 9:15 p.m. at Campus Christian Fellowship is where I met my wife, know. And so she's been my partner in crime, so to speak, for all these years, and we have 6 beautiful children. So one is with us right now, Jaden. So he's hanging out with Dad, interning with me. So
and by the way,
yes.
I always love you look at the Lord, and the Lord says, "I'll know you by your fruit."
Yes.
Most time, a lot of times as fathers, that's our children.
Yes.
I've met several of your children through graduations and things like that.
Yes.
Just seeing it out. You have incredible children.
Well, thank you so much.
And that's a testament of being a father,
yes.
And as an entrepreneur,
yes.
I'm sure they didn't see you a lot, but you continue to be a father.
That's right. I do the best I can. And I have this saying that the kids all now roll their eyes at, that if I do something that's considerable or cool or help them out with something, they'll say, "Oh, thanks, Dad." And I'll look at them and go, "I'm Dad." Like, what do you expect? I'm Dad. I'm the dad
job
here. That's my job, right? Mm-hmm. Exactly. So they get a kick out of that. That would be probably my dying words.
Well, it's really interesting because I remember as a kid when I finally found out what Dad meant. I was about 13 years old. I don't know if I've told this story before on air before, but it's a pretty powerful one for me anyway. Is we were, Dad came home from work, and I wanted to go race slot cars, little slot cars, and that was in Moore. We lived in Dale City, and so he was tired. He's like, "Okay, let's go." Like he didn't, because he's Dad. He's going to take care of his son. And so we're traveling on I-240. I'll never forget, right by Crossroads Mall, and this song by Conway Twitty's playing called "That's My Job." And if you ever heard the song, it's an incredible song of a little boy that wakes up, and I have to get through this. He thinks his dad's dead, and he runs to the end of the hallway, and he bangs on the door, and Dad's there. And he says, "Dad, what would I do if you were gone?" He said, "Son, it's my job. I take care of you. Don't worry about that." Well, later on in life, they get a little impasse, a little difference, and so they kind of go their separate ways because he's got to go become a man. And then he realizes he says, what if you weren't there? And he calls back again. He says, son, that's my job. I'm always here. That's what I do.
That's right.
Every day I take care of you, you know?
That's right.
And I just reached over and I grabbed my dad's leg. There was no words that needed to be said.
Now I understand that. I get
and we
that.
both knew right then.
I totally get that.
And
man.
you're going to know
totally
that one day when you feel it. But man, to have a good dad, it's so precious.
Yes. You know, I'm very fortunate. My biological dad passed away when I was 1.
Oh my gosh.
Of a brain aneurysm. And but I was very fortunate to have my stepfather who came into my life. And for all those folks who are out there who are stepfathers, you know, let me tell you, I have the best one.
What?
You know, okay. Sorry guys, you're already in second place, right? You know, he's affectionately the toughest man I know. We call him Pops. I've spoke about him even in front of Congress because I told my dad, I said, Pops or Dad, right? I said the day before I had the opportunity to speak before Congress and talk about certain things to help people around the country. But I said, Pop, tomorrow Congress is going to know your name, because my dad, he grew up poor in Arkansas, Blytheville, Arkansas, and his education only got to 8th grade, but he was able to get his commercial driver's license, his CDL, and be able to provide for our family using that. And so that sparked my journey, a part of my journey.
Oh,
right.
wow. This is weird.
This is a full
really
circle
near
moment.
and dear to you.
Absolutely. So fast forward back to the how I got into this. Actually it was 2009. I didn't own a company yet at the time. 2009, I started with a company called Roadmaster Driver School, who does pretty much what I do, but in other states. And great company, wonderful company, owned by Werner Enterprises now. But shout out to Werner, they're a great company to work for. But anyway, you know, I worked for them as an admissions person, just help people get into school. And I remember on my second day of employment in February of 2009, I'll never forget this. One of the vice presidents was helping set up the school, helping train some folks. And I said, wait a minute. So you help people get their CDL, the commercial driver's license, and there's a gajillion jobs opportunities for folks getting their CDL as truck drivers, and that's pretty much it. And he said, yeah. I'm like, and I looked him in the eye and I said, I get it. And I remembered my dad. In that moment, it clicked. It was like a full circle moment for me. It clicked. I said, well, I remember my dad struggling to get his CDL because he could barely read. I mean, he can read, but it wasn't very good. And my mom had to sit there with the CDL manual and read it to him, to help him along. And he finally passed his permit part, which is just like a car.
How old was he at this time?
He was probably in his late 30s or something like that, or mid 30s or something.
And he had a full career.
He had a full career
over the road.
Right? No, actually, it wasn't over the road. It was actually he worked for the city of Tulsa.
Okay, so he was local.
Yeah, he was local in the Parks and Recreation Department. But there was an opportunity, so for those who could get their CDL, they could promote. And he felt he needed. And I remember him saying to my mom, "If I can just get my CDL, if I could just get my CDL, like as if we got a CDL, we'll be okay." And that was just I just remember that he just focused on that one thing. That's all he cared about, was getting that CDL. Because we can get that, we're good. And so my mom helped him study. He obviously passed, got a CDL, because he's kind of a hands-on kind of learning kind of guy. So when he got past that written part, he was okay on the driving part, right? So he got a CDL, and that's how he supported our family. So in that moment, when that vice president said to me, that's basically what I do. I said, oh, you mean I can help people like my dad? And I said, because then I found out in Oklahoma, you don't have to have a high school diploma to get your CDL. So it's like, wow, this is an amazing opportunity. How am I not knowing about this? And then I just looked him in the eye and I said, I said, admissions rep. So basically I'm a recruiter, right? He goes, yeah. I said, I looked him in the eye and said, I'm going to be your number one recruiter. I just need to know, sir, if there'll be opportunities for me in the future, because I'm in so many words, I was like, I'm going to just knock this out of the park, because I believe in what we do here. We're giving people opportunity. We're giving people hope. That's
to feed their family.
To feed their family. My dad had to work at
the American dream.
The American dream. That's all.
Own your own home.
Own your own home. They have all those things. That's all he wanted. He didn't want everything else that maybe some of us. He just wanted to provide for his family. That's it.
It's funny. You just jarred my memory on it. My next door neighbor, and so when I went to Dale City, And I remember him, he loved baseball, and it was husband and wife. And he was former military. And then I had a opportunity in class to go interview somebody about what they did at their occupation. Never had I talked to him about this before, but I went over to his house and I started saying, what did you do about occupation? And he says, I was a truck driver. Jerome, when he said I was a truck driver, I've never seen the man as excited and just the sense of honor that he had.
Yes.
He loved his job.
Yes.
It gives me chills thinking about it, because I was like, I want to feel that way one day when I have my job.
Yes. Yes.
He was so, I can't even explain it. Just, it was humbling and honoring to see how, I don't want to say proud, but just full of life he was about what he did.
Absolutely.
And what he delivered to the country.
Yes. Yes. And you're providing a service to our country. I mean, and absolutely, our veterans provide, many have given their life, and many have spent so many years, like my brother, in the military. I mean, 20 plus years in the military, done a fantastic job, just retired, and everything. So, but there's other ways to serve our country too, military is, to me, the highest, one of the highest, but there's through ministry, right? Yeah. You serve our country. You might think you're serving your community, but that community grows to a country, goes out to the country. But anyway, so in that I looked that guy in the eye, told him I'll be your number one guy, and I found out there was 12. They had 12 schools and 45 people who did what I did. 6 months.
So is it Warner, right?
Yeah. No, it was Roadmaster, but now they're owned by Warner Enterprises.
Okay, so Roadmaster had 12 schools throughout the country.
Yeah, at that time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm with you.
And then so what I did was 6 months later, I was number one, and through all 12 schools. And I told them this too. Also, I said, I don't expect you to promote me unless I'm number one, and I want to be so far number one that no one knows who cares who's number two, because I believe in what I'm doing here. And I loved it. If I saw a dude and he comes in the office and he goes, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I said, well, do you have a job now? He goes, no. I said, well, then you need to do something. Come on now. Get off your, basically in a nicer way. I said, get off your butt, man. Come on. Yeah. This is a great opportunity. Are you kidding me? You're sitting around in the house and you could be making money, making 30, 40, at the time, $40,000, $50,000 a year. Of course, you can make more now, but come on. And the guy's like, oh, I guess you're right. Yeah, I'm right. This is not, to me, this was like simple.
This is easy.
This is easy. This is simple math, right? And that's how I led. That's how I went. And I believe, and so 6 months, and then about 3 months later, they gave me my own school to run. I had no idea what to do. They put me in Tulsa. I was in Oklahoma City at first, and they moved me to Tulsa, which I'm from.
You went from inside sales, so to speak, or recruiting to operations.
Yes, school director.
Wow.
Yeah. I started in the company, in the industry, in February of 2009. In December of 2009, I was a school director. Yeah. Wow. And it just so happens the opening came up. They had unfortunately let go of the guy prior to me. I won't go into detail what he did, because you would laugh a little bit, but then you'd be like, oh, that's bad. That's not good. Yeah. So the usual things that guys get in trouble for. So we'll just leave it. We'll leave it there. We'll leave it. That's okay. But anyway, so it opened the door for me. I came in and I flipped the company from losing $30,000 a month to $60,000 positive profit in 3 months. And they called me up to the executives like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I just believe in what I'm doing. And I just love what I do. And
the power of purpose.
The power of purpose. You got it right. That is exactly it. And that's pretty much it. And from that point on, about 3.5 years later, I was rated the number 2 school and out of their schools. And then from there, I struck out on my own with the old owner of American Truck Training in 2012, actually, at the end of 2012. So 2013 was our first full year in business. And we grew from there, and I went from a 4-acre facility to now an 8-acre facility. Of course, in 2015, I purchased the company outright, and I was the sole owner of American Truck Training from that point forward. So you
had the partner, and was that like sweat equity at first, or did you have a buy-in?
It was both. It was a sweat equity, and then he struck a deal with me and said, hey, if we do this, blah, 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 then you own the company. And I did exactly what he told me to do, and there you have it. And so when I first started with when I first got my first school director position, I had never seen a P&L statement in my life.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what that was, you know? So I had to, I always jokingly say, thank goodness for Google.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because
Googled
you're a criminal justice major,
That's
correct?
right. Criminal justice major.
You had no
right.
business
I
major.
had no business being in this industry.
Well, no, that's not what I meant.
No,
Yeah,
I
but-
know, that's not. I know that's not what you meant, but that's what I meant.
Right, right.
So
it was just this insatiable attitude that I'm
Absolutely.
going to win.
yes, I'm going to win, but with a purpose.
And winning was
Helping people get their CDL and provide for their family. Period. If I could do that all day, I've said many of times, you know, there's humor to this, but but I'm actually really serious. I would almost do this for free because I love it that much.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's not free.
Right,
You know,
right. I mean,
I got to provide
that
for
P&L
family.
statement would be screaming at you.
Yeah,
if that was the
P&L
case.
statement will be screaming at me, right? And I think people like under my employee like to get paid. So,
it is funny how they want to. You know, I love it, but I need to pay for water. I need to pay for electric.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Well, that's it's fascinating to me that you got into this business. It's kind of a man. There's probably a lot of people out there listening to this going, man, I wish I could find my purpose and my passion. And it came to you through what was your faith? Like, what was that brought you?
Sure. Oh, yeah. In fact, that's another good little story. And now hopefully this might help some listeners or so. And I was working for Farmers Insurance, a great company. And it was just one of those situations. I took a job that, I just took a job just to have a job, right? And it wasn't my purpose. It wasn't, but sometimes you have to do that. You have to do what you have to do to feed your family, right? Because at that point, I had 4 children. Of course, I got in the industry.
But when did you come to Oklahoma City?
I came to Oklahoma City back in 1970. I believe it was 78. I believe it was.
Okay, but you were working in Tulsa with the other organization,
right. So what happened was I came to we moved from Tulsa when I was a kid, right? From Chicago to Tulsa. Lived there, of course. Graduated from Booker T. Washington High School. Went to college. I went away for college, and I came back to the Northeastern State. Okay. Then I met my wife, who's from Oklahoma City.
Ah, that's it. Okay.
So, you know what happens wherever the wife is from.
You're going back.
You're going, and guess where you're going to live, right? And so she's like, "Oh, I want to live in Oklahoma City." I'm like, "Tulsa is cool too." She's like, "I'm I'm in love. Okay, let's go. I'll go to Oklahoma City." So did that, and then the opportunity opened for Roadmaster School in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa.
Okay.
And so I was working at the Oklahoma City school, but then they needed a school director, so they promoted me based off my numbers, based off all the things I was able to do in a very short amount of time, and my understanding and my passion. I think that's what that's probably why they went on and did that. And then still to this day, myself and that company are good friends. So we work together on projects to help folks all around the country.
So where did the farmers thing? Were you doing that concurrently just to try to make ends meet? Or?
No. So I did the farmers thing. It was in 2008, right before I got into the industry. So in 2008, I was working in a totally different industry. And so what happened is that farmers fired me because I, excuse the expression, sucked at my job. I did. I wasn't very good, and I knew it.
That's tough.
It's tough.
Picking up and calling 100 people a day.
Yes. It was tough, and I was doing insurance adjusting actually.
Okay, so a different side of it.
Yeah, it was a different side of it, and it was boring for me. The guys around me, they were doing great.
Yeah,
they were, some of them were younger than me. Many of them were, and they were just catching on. And to me, it was just like, I don't get it, and it's just hard to grasp, and that goes to show you not everything's for everyone, but sometimes you're there for a season, right?
Yeah.
They call me in the office, they say, "Hey, Jerome, don't look like this is not working out." I say, "You know what? I agree with you." What am I going to say?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're unjustly. No, I knew I was not very good at the job, and they knew it, and they were very kind about it. They weren't like jerks about it. It's like, "Hey, we're gonna have to let you go." And I said, "I totally understand that because I've seen the numbers, right?" Mm-hmm. And so I spent months after that, and because I was too embarrassed for my children to see me not go to work, I would literally get up in the morning and go to the library for 8 hours a day and look for a job at the library because I wanted my kids to see me leave the house.
Yes.
Could not bear the sight of my children saying, "What?" or even asking, "Why is Dad home?"
Yep.
So I did that, and then the opportunity came through a mutual friend. In fact, got to tell you this. This is why going to a church, having a church family helps. My pastor, Pastor Rodney Fouts of North Church, great man of God. I love him very much. He's a dude. He's a man's man. He's a dude, man. You know, but he saw our pain, and I spoke to him. And here's this guy who has this big church, taking time out of his schedule to meet with me and my wife to go over our budget. Really? I mean, that's pretty amazing. And he's like, man, you know what? Let me see what I can do to help. So he got with a guy who owned a company called American Truck Training, and said, hey, you said something about, and this guy's name is Jerry Thurman, very good man. He really reached out to me and said, hey, let me see if I can help you with your finances. And then, you know, it was before when I was working at Farmers, but then I got let go. But then, so because we were friends, he said, hey, you know, you said you had some sales background, right? It's kind of like what we do a little bit as far as the recruiting side. You know, I'm selling my company to a company called Roadmaster right now, and or at least the assets. And so it's coming. We're going to probably finish the sale in January, February of 2009. And my layout, or I got fired in late 2008. He said, well, maybe you might. Would that be interesting to you? I'm like, dude, I just need a job. I will take it. You know,
Wow.
had no idea. I didn't even think about it. If it was a paycheck, it was a paycheck. At that point in my life, I needed to do what I needed to do. Little did I know also at that time, my wife, around the time I got fired, my wife got pregnant with twins. And so we were going on a kid 5 and 6. So it was pretty rough.
How was the stress, just the overwhelming?
The stress was so overwhelming. You know, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, because we were living in a little house that was on 8th Street, in kind of a not the, you know, the best neighborhood, but that's okay. It is what it is. You know, we had, I joke about it now. It wasn't funny back then. We had roaches and mice, and those two collaborated together. And they were like, we're going to get these guys. We're going to get the Redmonds. We're going to get them. Tonight's the night, fellas. We ride. We ride. You know, they come in on little miniature chariots. No, I'm just kidding. But it was like, man, you know, my wife, every 5 minutes, she's like, there's a mouse, you know. And the roach is like, hey, what am I, chopped liver here? Come on. Now, I live here too. Yeah. Give me some attention. You're scared of a mouse. I'm a roach. Come on. No,
I got friends too.
I got friends too, you know. I mean, so anyway, so it was not great. And I remember times when I was so broke that I couldn't, there was one time, and I'm not proud of it, but I just want people to understand where I was at. That at one point, my water, gas, and electric was all cut off. And luckily for me, my in-laws, who at that time they were so kind, I don't know what, if I were them, I'd be like, oh, but this boy, you know. And my daughter's in this situation, right? And I had to huddle my kids around a gas heater, once we got the gas back on, and just to keep them from not being too cold, you know. And I literally remember, you know, you've heard the expression, can't rub two pennies together. I remember there was one day in my life that I couldn't do that. I couldn't, because we had picked up all the change off the floor to buy food that we could find off the floor in little crevices and things where we dropped it underneath the seats of the car just to buy food, right? I remember times when my wife, one time we were unloading groceries and the milk fell and burst open. She burst into tears because she knew we didn't have any money to replace it, you know? So I vowed to my wife, and my kids were so young they didn't understand. But I said, I won't. This won't stand. This will not stand. I'll do whatever I have to do to get out of this situation and provide for my family. So imagine me getting the opportunity not only to provide for myself, but to help others provide for themselves too. That motivated me like you wouldn't believe. And I will die helping people be able to provide for their family, because I hugely believe. I know the pain of going home, not knowing what to eat, have the pain here in America, right? I mean, a great country, but it's not America's fault. It was my fault that I was in that situation. But luckily for me, and I was very fortunate, and Lord blessed me, that I was able to work hard with God's blessings to get myself out of that, and to a place where, you know, life is more comfortable. I can obviously can feed my family, but now I can help others feed theirs.
So throughout that time, you never felt the father left you. He was, how'd that?
Yeah, my stepdad,
Well, when I say the father,
Father God, okay, yeah, I will say this, there was a time that I know honestly I did not feel that God abandoned me. I just knew the nature of God. I knew enough of the pattern of how God works that eventually, and my wife and I used to say, one of these days when we're doing well, we would speak that, we would talk about that amongst each other. My wife was really the one who really kind of pushed that. And here she is, she's married to this broke dude, and she's speaking positive over me, right? And so, come on, dude. You know what? If this woman, and now I'm at a place in life that I'm more comfortable. This lady can ask for almost anything within reason, obviously, and get it. She's very non-materialistic. I mean, she does still like to shop, fellas out there. I mean, I still got Amazon boxes coming every day, man. I tell you, I get nervous sometimes when I see the boxes stack up, but because she's been by my side there, I want more for her as much as as much of comfort that I can give her within reason, obviously. And because she deserves that, because she was there.
Well, you think about scripturally, when God says, Adam, you need a woman, you need somebody, but he knew a helper. There you go, right there. You already know it.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is what, so if we're living our lives as men, God, family, country, then we love God, and then he loves us, and we love our family like he loves us.
Sure.
If we do it in that order, we're gonna be okay.
That's right.
Man, I didn't know this stuff. I'm blown away, and this is, how old are you now?
54, getting ready to be 55.
So I don't know if there's a lot of people that think that there is a lot of people that go through exactly what you talked about,
sure.
and they rise to the top.
Sure.
Before we get into some stuff we were talking before,
sure.
You even went on to get through a really rough period here recently, where your business was on a climb.
Oh yeah,
year after year after year.
Oh, absolutely.
And no fault of your own.
Sure.
There was a brakes put on, so to speak.
Oh yeah, sure.
When there was a reveal that there was schools passing people that deserved no right to be on the road.
Rampant fraud all over the country, and it didn't, obviously, like to your point or you imply, that it just didn't just affect me, it affected all trucking schools and the entire trucking industry itself. There was a accumulation of other things, but bottom line is that not only were there trucking schools that were doing fraudulent things, like, give you an example, there was a school, I don't know their name and I wouldn't say it anyway, but there was a school somewhere in Florida. And I'll give you a story. In fact, one of my graduates, who is a great guy, he worked for a local company here in a trucking company, great company called Fry Miller, great company, wonderful people, and he was a safety guy there, and he called me up and said, "Hey Jerome," because he graduated from my school. He said, "Hey Jerome, I got this guy, man, who just came to work here, and the guy could barely even start the truck. What? Can you check to see if this guy was?" Because I know you're part of the Commercial Vehicle Training Association, which is basically the association for all trucking schools, okay? And so I knew you, and I'm on the board of directors, and he says, do you know this school? And he told me who it was. I looked it up. I said, no, it wasn't one of ours, one of a CVTA school, just some random school out there. He said, well, I just found out that he gave this guy, the school, $5,000, and they just basically handed him a CDL. And I was like, what? And my first thought was to, hey, man, yeah, you need to report that. Because, I'm sure Florida would not like that happening. And the guy he didn't know how to barely even start. He said when they were testing the guy, because they always give a little extra, just kind of see where the guy is at before they hand him the keys to one of their trucks. And most trucking companies do that. They said the guy just burst into tears. And I said, wow, because he knew he did the wrong thing, but he knew he was also wrong because they should have never taken his money and just gave him a CDL, right? And so I told that guy, and the guy didn't take me up on it, but kind of wish he did. I told that that particular that guy who came from my school, I said, send him to me. I'll train him for free, because he already paid his $5,000. If he can show me a receipt where he paid or something like that, I'll train the guy for free. And train him properly.
Did it fall through? Did he?
He did not. He did not. Unfortunately, I think if I had to guess, and I don't know this, I don't know the guy. I've never met the guy. I just heard the guy was just telling me the story over the phone. My guess is he might have been just too embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because he realized, that was a mistake.
Well, you don't know. Some of these people may not be able to read, and they don't want to admit that.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things that go involved with that.
That could have been part of it,
But you think about for those that don't know, if you get into a semi truck, it's sort of like an airplane.
Yes.
I mean, there is a lot of knobs and a lot of things.
Absolutely. And the thing is that it's not so much. It's kind of like military in a sense. I look at it like this. And you go into the military, and from what I understand, there's a lot of things to learn. But there's folks there to teach you who have the patience, and over time you get it. Where when you first get into whatever job you are in the military, it may look like a mountain of a deal to try to learn. Mm-hmm. But over time you learn it and you become efficient at it, right? But the military is designed to teach people to take a 18-year-old kid and turn them into like stinking stud, of a soldier. Granted, he listens, right? He does what he's supposed to do. Follows orders, right? And so that type of a background, like military, translates to this. But it's just unfortunate that that guy had to go through that, but like I said, never heard from him again. And then and to your point earlier, it's just there was a lot of fraud, a lot of bad things happening. But luckily for now, the newer administration cleaned up a lot of that.
Well, but if I understand this correctly, because they didn't know how many schools that were inappropriate, they just shut everything down.
Yeah. Well, they didn't shut everything down. What they did was they did a massive nationwide audit. And as far as the FMCSA, the guys in charge, basically, which is a division of U.S. Department of Transportation. So anyway, they basically said, okay, randomly we're going to pick 1,500 schools around the nation, and we're going to audit them and see what's going on there. They closed a third of them.
Wow,
it was that many, just right in a week. And
so because you had a big slowdown with this controversy because everything started slowing down.
Yeah, sure.
And now you're on the upswing.
Oh, very much on the upswing because some of those bad
because you've passed with flying. You're like, come on, please.
I loved it.
I want that badge.
Yeah, because I thought, man, I hope I'm first. And I was
Let
lucky
me set the bar.
Yeah,
mark.
I was lucky. The guy called. I said, hey, yeah, come on in. And he's like, yeah. He was like, he walked in the door, and I lied to you not, verbatim. This is what he said. He looked around, saw all the licenses and everything, which has always been there. Everything in the right spot. The way our training, everything. He just looked around. He wasn't there for like 30 seconds. He looked at me and goes, well, this is going to be short. Oh, I loved hearing those words, buddy, and it was very short. He asked certain questions. And he was almost like he was not annoyed at me, but he was almost like, oh, I'm just doing my job, man. I already know where this is going with you. I'm like, hey, you know what? Go ahead and do your due diligence like you're supposed to. And that way I could, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, so I can brag on this.
Right.
There was no
Please
shortcuts.
Take your time.
Yeah, take your time. In fact, I showed him stuff that he didn't even need to see. I did. I said, hey, you want to go on a tour? He said, well, I already kind of went out and saw. I said, let's go more in depth.
Yeah, exactly.
But I also did it for him in a sense that I wanted to show him what it really supposed to look like. So when he goes someplace else, he can ask questions. He can go, well, I know you guys don't do it this way, but I went to another school and they do it this way. You might consider doing it that way to help you. And it may not be a violation or something they did wrong, but something they see from us that they can pass on to another school that they can do better.
Yep.
Right? Because the bottom line is safety. It's safety. That's what we preach. That's what we are about, is making sure that, yes, my first heart is making sure, giving folks an opportunity to provide for their families. But another part that's just as important is to make sure that these folks are safe drivers. Because I always say I have 6 reasons, or actually 7, including my wife, reasons why I want our folks to come be able to drive safely with a semi truck. Because I don't know, my family could be driving next to one of my students.
That's right.
right? And I want to be respectful of other families as well, right? And so I have to think in that way. So
Can you share 7? Can you share 'em?
I'm sorry.
Share the 7. You got them?
Oh, 7.
The 7 things that you think
Oh
about.
yeah. 7 things is my 6 kids, my wife. Those are the 7 things, right? Right.
There you go.
So those are
right.
they're the most important things in my people in my life, my family, and I want to make sure if my students are trained up to a certain level. My expectation is that our students who graduate, go out there and do a good job, that they're not only are they providing a great service for our country, but they're keeping our roads safe.
Well, so it's the power of the purpose.
Absolutely.
It's like everything kind of falls in line after that. Like,
Yes.
I'm going to be the best
Absolutely.
at this because it's important to me.
Yeah.
Now, you went on to even delve even. You went in front of Congress.
Oh yeah.
In 2023.
Yes. That was interesting. Quick version of that story. One of the higher ups at the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, Patrick Niemans. He's pretty much over like 3 or 4 divisions of the FMCSA, like the drug test, the drug clearinghouse, which is make sure that no one's on anything that's going to impair them as they drive. He's over a lot of other great guy. Also a veteran, as well, Air Force. And so having many meetings with him. He called me up one day and just out of the blue, and he said, "Hey, Jerome, I want to talk to you about a few things." I said, "Yeah, of course it's him. I'm going to take his call." Like immediately, I dropped everything, And I said, "Yeah, Patrick, And we talked about for 15 minutes roughly or something. He was telling about some initiatives and things like that. And I'm just sitting there like snacking on something, whatever. And he says, "Oh, by the way," he says, 2 things. One, because it came through. Actually, I'll take that back. That was when I got to speak got called to the White House. That was a whole nother thing. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Wrong story. The Congress one was our executive director at CVTA called me and said, "Hey, the ATA, which is American Trucking Association, and they represent every trucking company in the nation. I mean, huge group." These are the folks who can walk into Congress and go, "Hey, what's going on?" And they have clout, And so we're kind of like a sister or little brother entity, not underneath them, but it's kind of like we work together because we're in a very similar industry. But American Truck Association said, "Hey, we need someone like Jerome to come to Congress and speak on behalf of helping folks find funding to get in school." And that's kind of like that's kind of my jam, so to speak. I know that school can be expensive, and so one of my first things I learned when I got in the industry is that not everyone can afford school. So I did everything in my power to find ways to make sure that people can afford school, and so that's been part of my thing. Is I don't care, as long as you got the desire to want to be a truck driver, because it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of learning. I'll find a way for you to get in school, right? And I don't care, come heck or high water. I've taken cuts just to make sure that but it always comes back to me. It really does.
Yes.
I mean, it really truly works like that.
Yes.
So anyway, so they reached out to me and they said, "Yeah, and can you come to DC?" Yeah, sure. And that's when and they we joke about it still to this day. That they locked me in a room. They really didn't, and they slid food under the door and prepped me for like a day and a half on how to deal with Congress, because they can be Congress, right? You've seen hearings. You've seen them
brutal.
Attack people. They can be brutal. They're going to ask a lot of questions. And I promise you, they prepped me so well that I walked in that room like I hope somebody say something stupid to me. I'm ready. Let's go. I'm but. To my surprise, they, I guess, in some way, shape, or form, I don't know, I came off the right way or something, and they just they poured love on me, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is different." I kind of trained for more hostility here, but okay. But the whole purpose for me being there was they were trying to amend a law that stated that if you got 529 savings account, for
Yep.
saving up for school for your kid, right, or whoever, And usually that kind of funding is only used for like college or something like that, right? Well, I was there to speak on behalf of the industry and say, hey, listen, there's all these other trades and all these other entities, like even folks who homeschool their kids. I was there I represented 600 and some odd different agencies and organizations. I didn't know that. They told me that afterwards, which was the wise thing to do, because they said, oh, by the way, sir, you represented 600 other groups too. I'm like, oh, great. Thanks for not telling me that, because I would have probably panicked. But anyway, but all with the purpose of being able to allow that money to be used for like vocational training, electrical training, or whatever.
It's just weird. I didn't even know that was not possible.
I didn't either until, of course, they briefed me on it. I get there, I give a 5-minute opening remarks. I made I'll have to share it with you if I haven't already, but I made a joke about how my dad got in the industry and all this. I told that story a little bit, and that really set well with them. And I said at one point my dad was a gas station attendant, and for those of you who don't know what a gas station attendant is, you might just Google it. And they burst into all of Congress burst into laughter. I saw a dude almost fall out of his chair, and I thought, wow, that joke hit really good.
Well.
That landed really well, man. I just sat there and I'm like, well, I'll just ride this pony, let them laugh for a little bit, and then I'll get back to what I was saying. And I got back on it, and we talked, and we had a nice back and forth, and it lasted about 6 hours,
Oh, wow.
And the funny thing is, here's a funny fun fact. It happened to be that day. In fact, I'll just tell you the story, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're going for about 2-3 hours, and at some point they said, okay, for those of you who are testifying here before Congress, it was like 5 or 6 of us, and I was representative of one group, and some folks were for, and some folks were against, and I was obviously for this deal, right? And so, Congress, I believe his name is Smith. Oh yeah, Congressman Smith. Who's the chairman of the Ways and Means, or basically the people who spend the money for Congress, right? The oldest committee in Congress, right? Looks at me, looks at us, and goes, "All right, guys, we're going to take a little break. Okay, Congress has provided lunch for you in the back in our conference room for you. It was a very good lunch, by the way. I'm like, these guys eat good. These are really good. I mean, some of them like sandwiches, but I'm like, these are the best tasting sandwiches I've ever had. Anyway, and because we need to handle some business, we're going to go and vote in a Speaker of the House, and we'll be right back." And that's what they did.
Oh my goodness!
That was the day that our current Speaker of the House got voted in to Congress as the Speaker of the House. So they went, and we could see it on the TV screens in the conference room what was going on. And so they went to another room, voted them in, and they come back and go, "All right, well, we have a new Speaker of the House for the United States. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on." I'm like sitting there going,
just like
it was
everyday work,
and everyday work, and I was like, did that just happen? And we finished off, and it was really nice and cordial. They shook my hand afterwards, and they were really nice. And they were like, "Man, we really appreciate you telling your story, the American Dream story." There, I'm like, you know what? I'm honored to have this story. I'm very fortunate, because so.
Did it pass? I can't remember.
Yes, it did pass.
Okay.
In fact, I believe Senator Langford was one of the first ones to sign off on it.
Oh, good.
Good. I don't know if he.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, a guy from Oklahoma. He just I jokingly think that he, there's no truth to this what I'm about to say, but in my mind, I'm playing this in my mind, that he looked and goes, "What is Jerome up to?" Oh my goodness! Let's just sign off on this. It looks like it's pretty good. Let's do it. But anyway, that's probably not what happened. I'm sure he did a lot more research and everything, but because it's just common sense.
It is common sense, and it's also you establishing yourself as a stalwart of this industry. And a lot of times when you do that and you present, it's pretty easy stamp yes on that one, approved. Yeah. But let's take a quick break, and then I'm gonna come right back. I've got a fun second part of this thing. So thanks. Hang on, I'll be right back. All right, so every time I get around you, I just, we speak a common language, entrepreneurs, Christians, brothers.
That's right.
We talked for about 45 minutes, and we talked about struggles. We talked about overcoming obstacles, love for life, joy for your wife, joy for your children. And we talked about a bunch of different people. One thing we never talked about was what color their skin was. So I want to just honestly speak, if you can be candid with me,
Sure.
throughout all of that time, what struggles did you have because of the color of your skin?
You know, everyone has different experiences. I have many friends who've been pulled over and, you know, and had issues just because of, you know, of things like that. I've had my moments, like in fact, even my wife. My wife, if you heard her speak, she doesn't necessarily. She has a high pitched voice, so everyone jokes and goes like, "Is your mom there?" You know, I mean, when she answers the phone,
She's like the sister or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's like she got this little like she almost sounds like a little girl or something. Like, 'cause that's just how she sounds, right? And I remember I was working and she was going for a job, and this was during one of those tough times in our lives financially. And she went to a dealership, and this dealership, this lady came to her and says, "Okay, so you want to be a receptionist here, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm applying for a receptionist position." And the receptionist looked at her and said, "Can you say the word?" And she said the name of the dealership, which is not, if you, by looking at it, if you could pronounce it incorrectly, right? And she said the name of the dealership. And she said, "A lot of black people can't say that word. Can you say this word?" And she went, and my wife is so sweet. It went in one ear and out the other. She just like, "Okay," and she just said it, and she said, "Okay," like that. And then my wife later thought about it, and she told me, but she didn't tell me, in a way to get me mad or anything like that. But she was just telling me how her day went. And I said, whoa, wait, back up. What? She's like, "Oh," she said, "say blank," and I said it, and she said, "Well, some black people can't pronounce that correctly," or something like that. And I'm like, can she hear the way you talk? You're very your enunciation is flawless.
Right.
I mean, you speak perfect. I mumble. I mean, I get it if it was me, but she can honestly hear you, and it did upset me. And I've had moments and things like that. But just like anything in life, you can't let that define you. You can't let anything stop you from what your God-given calling is. Now think about all the folks out there who've like Martin Luther King, or all these great, all these folks out there who've had the worst of worst things as it relates to race happen to them, but it didn't stop them.
Right.
Because to your point earlier, Chad, they had purpose, and I have a purpose, and so the color of my skin, it doesn't affect. Have there been idiots out there who said some dumb stuff to me? Yeah. But I just go right past them. I say to myself, "Oh, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and then you'll be in my back rearview mirror at some point."
We talked about like entrepreneur. It knows no color.
Yeah,
Ignorance
it doesn't.
knows no color either.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
So,
that's true. Oh, that's a good one right there. Ignorance knows no color too. You're right. In fact, I'm commonly the only person of color in a lot of rooms that I'm in, and I tell my children this. I said, "Listen, I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not the most brilliant. I'm not this or not that. I'm not a lot of things that, but one thing I am, I'm consistent. And another thing is that, if you keep your nose clean and do the best you can, a lot of times you just win by default. And that's why I teach my kids. I say, if you just do what you're supposed to do,
I would argue there's one more thing.
Okay.
Win by default, but it's because I bet you look in that room and you say, "But I'm going to outwork you."
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
I may not be the smartest or the sharpest.
Oh, absolutely.
Just like, but I'm going to outwork you.
But the beautiful thing about that, I liked what you just said there. You know what the beautiful thing about that? It doesn't matter what color you are. You could the person over here is saying the same thing to me, but it has nothing to do with my color.
That's right.
A guy over here who's white, he might say to himself, "Well, I'm going to outwork the rest of you guys." And we all, but it's kind of like, that's why one of the things I love about military, and one of the things I love about sports, there's that camaraderie. We want to see, if I get better, it's like, well, I'll use sports in this case. If I get better, and I taught him, Jaden over here, my son, who's here with us today, hanging out with his dad, right? He's in high school, his school took state champion in cross country, right? And it wasn't because had nothing to do with the color of skin. It has everything to do with his work ethic and how hard he worked for it. And so it's just one of those things, man. I think that if you bust your tail, you work real hard, and it knows no color. You just do what you got to do.
I mean, all those times that you got knocked down to your knees, all you did was you went in the mirror and said, I got to get up.
Yeah.
There's nobody that's going to come and save me. So where do you think, what did your dad say? What was some of the things? Because I mean, right now is a little bit of a tense environment. It feels like you see it, and I always feel like it's a divide. I mean, media doesn't care. Media, all media does is I want you to look at me.
Right.
Whatever I have to say, you look at me, and then by that you're going to spend money with me. So what's the easy button is let's divide these people.
Yeah, sure.
What you see is a couple of knuckleheads, no matter what color.
Right.
But you don't see all the great stories of the Jerome Redmonds out there that is taking care of his family, that is doing everything like you would to build up a strong foundation that he's going to become he's going to benefit from this, right? Your son's going to be, and he's going to take it and he's going to extend the family tree into something even better.
Yes, absolutely.
And you're teaching him now the next phase of the family tree.
That's correct. In fact, we had that conversation on our way here. Didn't know that was even be part of the conversation, but that's actually what we were talking about a little bit of. It's just if you just like anything else, man. I mean, if you I love saying I win by default. You said something actually that reminded me of something I've said to my kids too. Is that or just people in general? I'm sorry, and people in general who ask me about, well, how did you get to where you're at? I said, because I'm just dumb enough not to stay down. My default, if you can just do this one thing, I think this helps a lot of people in their life. If your default is just to get back up, no matter, even if life is going to swing at you again, because it will. But what happens is you kind of get to a point where you start seeing the punches coming, because you've seen the punch come before, right? You know what it looks like. It's just like boxing. You get so used to punches, you just know how to dodge them. And then all of a sudden, someone lands a punch that normally should have knocked you out. You just kind of look at them like, oh, well, that's all you got.
There's that famous line. So my son, he's been blessed to be able to go walk on and play at Oklahoma State University. And it's pretty, it is intense. And it was funny because he came home after summer. He went through spring, he made the team, and now it's summer, right? So he went through his first summer experience that week, and it was tough and it was brutal. And he's not the most athletic out there. And then, but he's doing okay, and he's still there, right? He's still standing on 2 feet.
Yeah.
But it's like he's the dad. There's so much pressure. It's so intense. These guys are so athletic, and I'm not that athletic, but I'm here, but it's pressure. And it was funny. It reminded me of a couple things because I was trying to how can I relate this to him and say, the battle's between your ears, right?
Yeah.
And so you're there for a reason, or you wouldn't be there.
Right, sure.
So it's like, Ice Cube, I think, was the one that said, everybody wants to be a gangster, so you have to do gangster stuff, right?
Right, that's right.
And I was thinking to myself, every athlete says, I want to be a D1 athlete, so you have to go do D1 stuff.
Right, that's right.
When it's not the fun time, it's the middle of the summer.
Right.
But it's also that idea of the famous line from Rocky. I feel like it's like, you get knocked down and you get back up. You get knocked down and you get back up. And that's because that's how winning is done.
That's how winning is done. I've been knocked down more times than I can count. I feel like sometimes a life has, I'll put it like this. Let me tell you a quick story. It's a true story that happened to me when I was early in my marriage. And it was before when my wife and I had 2 kids. Now, we were only at 2 at that point. We have 6 now. And my youngest, my 2 older kids, one was like probably 4, and the other one was like 1.5, 2, somewhere in there, give or take, give or take 6 months or ish. And we were living in this house, and I remember saying to myself and praying to God, God, is there more to life? Is this it? I mean, am I ever going to? I felt back then that I was going through a tough time, but little did I know it would be tougher times ahead. But I prayed to God, and I remember saying this. I said, God, I remember just calmly relenting and saying, you know what? Ultimately, I just want to do your will. I just want to do your will. That's
true
it.
obedience.
And last night, and this chokes me up a little bit. Every time I think of this, I try not to choke up on this one. But I remember God speaking, and it's one of the rare times that God has spoken in my heart in a way that, not audibly, but in a way that I knew it was him, right? You know how the Bible says a small, still voice. And I'll never forget him saying, it was almost as if he was not sad, but he was kind of like, oh, Jerome. And he said to me, you're going to suffer, and it was like, in other words, if you're going to follow me, this is some bad stuff's going to happen, buddy. And I appreciate. It was almost like he appreciates my heart. And he appreciated the thought of me wanting to do his will so much that I was okay with that. And then I said, I said to the Lord back to him. I replied. I said, "So be it." And I'll lie to you not, it was like it was like a shift. And I'm a Star Wars fan, so it was a disturbance in the Force. It was a shift, man. It was like I felt like something shift in the air, right? And from that point on, it wasn't like all bad, of course. It was great moments and stuff. I would rise up into a company and do well, and then all of a sudden that company goes through a layoff, and I'm back down. And I did this over here, and of course the farmers insurance thing, and which I worked. It was a great company and stuff. I just wasn't very good at the job, And then a company's doing well, and then all of a sudden we hit a downturn, and it's like, man, I'm just scrapping, just making sure my employees are paid. But I'm not being able to eat myself, for our family. We've gone through those ups and downs, but for each up and down, I've learned and gotten stronger. And that's kind of to your point, what winning does, And I was telling my son yesterday, I said, I've gotten to do things that I would have dreamed of doing. It wasn't even on my radar of dreams, but God brought me here to this point. He got me through all that, and look what he's done with me. He's put me up on high. I've been at the Department of Transportation. I've been in front of Congress. I got called to the White House to work in the West Wing and work on some programs. It was a program for veterans for that called Task Force Movement. They've since evolved it a little bit, but it's to help veterans transition from employment. From the military into employment, right? And there's a lot of great programs out there, but this was just one of many that the White House endorsed, bipartisan, right? And so I've lived a great life, and I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
You're at halftime.
I'm at
baby.
halftime,
Come on,
man. I'm at halftime, dude. I'm going for it all, man. If I have to die trying to make sure that people can provide for their family, because I understand the pain as a father. To look at your kids and know that you're not where you want to be, and you feel a little bit less than. You feel like you're not providing for them. I know that pain. So I'll lie to you not, if I can take that pain from everyone, I'll do whatever I have to do to make that happen. Now, I will walk over broken glass for every one of my students or anything that I touch to make sure that guy in front of me can provide for his family. If I can just do that, man, I'll die happy, man.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that testimony, man. I know those are tough. It's tough, but it's also real, and when people feel it. But here's what I take away from that, and I pray someone hears this. When you have that conversation with Jesus, the Creator, and He says, "Man, you're going to go through some tough times, but I'm gonna ride with you."
Oh yeah.
Look what happened after that. You completely went obedient. And all these things, okay, I trust you now, son, and I'm going to prepare you for what's coming. Mm-hmm. But all of these things that happen in your life, did you make a phone call, or did they call you, and all of a sudden an opportunity presents itself?
Opportunities were presenting themselves left and right, man. I mean, God just, and about this one. There's a little bit of a funny one. And in fact, we're working on some stuff about this tomorrow with a gentleman. I was one time in the barbershop, and I was sitting there getting my hair cut, and I had already talked to some folks about opening a school in Houston and things of that nature.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, and I get a phone call, and it's from a guy that I know very well, who's a very important, very powerful businessman, and that was a door that just happened to open for me as well. And he called me up and says, "Hey, Jerome, okay, so hey, it's it was a Tuesday or something, I believe." And he said, "Hey, hey, I got some folks from this organization, and coming down on Friday. And as I discussed, my friend 50 Cent wants to meet you as well. I'm like, yes, let me see if I can clear my calendar for that one. And the funny, yeah, of course, I'm going to clear my calendar, right? The funny thing about that was, my wife and I had a Christian marriage conference we were going to go to. And so for all those fellows out there who want a quick and easy way to impress your wife that works almost every time, if she's a Christian, man, take her to a Christian marriage conference, man. And
Amen.
man, I tell you what, that was like, you're golden for at least, I'll say it give you at least a month, right? And you can leave your underwear on the floor, man, and you'll probably get away with it for at least a month, right? And so I had to call my wife and say, hey, honey, I know we were supposed to go to that Christian conference on Friday, but our mutual friend of the celebrity, 50 Cent, called and said if I can make it there on that day. She's like, yeah, go do that. I'm like, oh, hey, I just want to make sure.
Are you sure, honey?
Yeah,
are you sure, baby?
Are you absolutely sure, honey? And so I did. And then that Friday, I'm there on the campus of what was still going to be, and we just confirmed it yesterday.
I saw it.
Yeah, the campus we're going to work on in Houston to open up a trucking school, and 50 Cent is going to, hopefully still be involved. From what I heard from a text yesterday, he's like, hey, I'm still interested in working with you guys on this. Let's get something going. And so but when I got opportunity to meet him, it was great. I mean, he was a great guy, as a lot of people say he is, and he definitely was. And obviously he's done his homework on me and said a few things, kind words, and we got to sit there, just me and him, just chit-chatting and talking about business and life and everything. And he pointed to a field out there and said, Jerome, when I see that field, I don't just see an empty field. I see, and he starts explaining how his vision and how his mind works. And I was like, yeah, I did not know this was going to be happening in my life.
He's a fascinating one. Look what he did when he said, I'm going to tell you a story about Diddy. I mean, he's real, right? He's a real entrepreneur. He's real. Yeah. I think he came from a pretty rough background, as I understand.
Yeah, he did.
But he looked at America and he said, I could either look at this as the world hates me or this country hates me, or I can look at this and say, I've got an opportunity. I don't have to hustle anymore. I can do a different hustle.
Right. A different hustle.
And I just heard the story about this man named, I don't know if it's his real name, but it's Wall Street Trapper. Have you ever heard of him?
No, I've not.
Fascinating story. So he was in the hustle. He got put in prison for 10 years. Mm-hmm. A person in there was a Ponzi scheme guy. Mm-hmm. So he was a white collar guy and got put in prison for a scam.
Sure.
For 10 years, these guys talked together. And he taught him Wall Street.
Wow.
As he was in there. And he said, man, you don't have to hustle on the streets. If you took that amount of energy you put into that and put it into where you can make money, let's face it, there's some hustlers on Wall Street too, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Everybody, who doesn't know that?
They tilt a lot more money, right? Yeah. So, but if you do it the right way, and you're going to have to go look him up. You look him up. He just came out with a YouTube on today's SpaceX. It came out. And it was beautiful what he did. Now, he's worth tens of millions of dollars, but 10 years in prison because of a murder or attempted murder rather, and now he's worth $10 million.
Yeah.
If you don't think this country
absolutely
is opportunity for anybody, no matter what you look like, where you come from, who your parents were, and what. Last thing, what I would say is this. The one thing that I always look for when someone says they're a Christian is I look to see how easily are you offended, and do you have a lamp of gladness?
Yeah,
God says, I give you a lamp of gladness, a joy, an abundant joy.
Yes.
Jerome, you have that abundant joy that overflows like a geyser, man. I mean, thank you for telling your story. Thank you for being vulnerable with your testimony, because that right there, there's going to be some people that hear that and need to hear that.
Well, I hope so. And I thank you, Chad, for inviting me on your show. And this has been a great, another great thing that I've been able to do and be a part of. And I appreciate you for your hospitality and your friendship and also your Christian beliefs. I mean, you're a man of God too, man. It takes one to know one.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, there was one thing I wanted to ask you.
Oh. Want to ask?
Yep.
Okay.
Wes, we still recording? All right. I got one last question for you.
Sure.
And take everything out of this. I don't care what background, skin color, whatever. If you're talking to a young man out there right now that maybe doesn't have the father you had, that I had, Jaden has, what's your message?
Get around someone like me or someone or a mentor. Get a mentor in your life. You know, it's not hard. Don't think for a minute that just because someone appears successful and all the stuff that they won't have time for you. Perfect example was I was in high school. I'll try to make this brief. I was in high school in 12th grade in a business law class. And it was business law elective at Booker T. Washington High School, right? And they invited an attorney from Williams Company's legal department, which name is David Bateau, a wonderful guy. He was a senior attorney. He volunteered to kind of help his time with the class with a project we were working on called a mock trial project, right? Just learning about the legal field and things like that. Because I at one point thought about doing that for a living. And he came, and it was I remember thinking to myself, I've never seen someone on his level of success in my entire life, because no one in my family has even finished college yet up to that point. You know, my brother was the first and I was the second. And in fact, part of me didn't want to finish before him because he's older than me, and I didn't want to take that from him.
That's awesome.
You know, so but he finished, and he's actually has a doctor. I was going for his doctorate in theology right now. So
wow,
and the military guy, he's the one who's retired. So
man,
but this guy David Bateau, he comes and he's in Tulsa, of course, and that's where I was living, and so he gives up his time. And, you know, kids were, kids, they're high schoolers. So they weren't really asking questions. They were just kind of there. And I was the only one kind of asking questions. You know, I'm thinking, hey, guys, we got a real life attorney. Maybe you guys have lawyers in your family that you can just go and talk to, but I don't. You know, I've never met a lawyer in my life.
It's like a unicorn to you.
It's like a unicorn to me, man. It was like, I'm from the hood, man. I didn't ever seen a lawyer before in my life, I probably walked past one or something, but I didn't know he was. But anyway, so after class, I walked over to him and started talking to him and started asking questions. And he's kind of smirked a little bit and says, hey, would you like to come up and visit the law office where I work? And I'm like, yes, sir, I would love to do that. He goes, okay, well, here's my number, here's my card. Give me a call and we'll arrange it. He did. I got up there, he gave me a tour around the 36th floor of Williams Company's legal department, oil and gas company in Oklahoma, right? And so I'm like just shocked and amazed that this guy would even do that. Then I went one step further. And this is what you got to listen to, young men and women who are out there. I called him back up and said, hey, Mr. Bateau, is there anything? And I said something like, you have, and I said it. Here's the thing. I even said it wrong. By all means, I said when I asked him next, if you would have thought, oh, there's no way he's going to get anything out of this. I said, is there anything up there job wise for a little guy like me, or something dumb like that? Like I just basically demeaned myself a little bit. He goes, well, Jerome, let me see what I can do. About 2 days later, 2 or 3 days later, he calls me back and says, you know what, Jerome, we decided to create a position around you. Now you're going to be, if you accept, you can be just administrative clerk. You're just going to make copies. We're going to start this new program through Booker T. Washington High School, starting with you. All that because I asked, and I took the risk of being what some would consider as being rejected, but that's okay. Most successful people love giving out free advice to young people. It almost makes me laugh how many times I've given my card out to a young person and said, hey, you can call me or text me anytime if you have any questions, or if you need help, or if you just want some, you want to, learn some more about business or something like that. Mm-hmm. And rarely anybody ever takes me up on it.
Isn't that something?
It's something. There are so many people out there who will mentor you for free.
Don't miss that point. Don't miss that point right there. Just ask.
Just ask.
And if you humbly and you genuinely want to know,
Yeah.
they will show you things that is common to them, but not common to most,
Right.
and get you out of your circumstances so fast
Yeah.
that you'll look weird to the people you hang around with.
That's right. In fact, a quick extra to that. Now, of course, I didn't know this story until way later in my life. That's how Steve Jobs got started.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Steve Jobs. He looked in the at the time, and you can Google this. It's like there's a YouTube video of him telling the story. He said, back in those days, which I remember those days, you can look up people in the phone book.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
So he looked up Hewlett Packard, called him at home, and Hewlett Packard answered the phone call. And he said, "Hi, my name is Steve Jobs. I'm 11 years old, and I was wondering if you happen to have some transistors or something like that, whatever, so I can play with and kind of build and try to build my own whatever he was trying to build." And he said he laughed. He said, "Yeah, actually, I can do that." And he got mentored by Hewlett Packard.
So I think it was Packard in that duo. They were the first like garage made billionaires.
Yeah.
And there's a great book called Good to Great. And, and he's telling this story. And someone says, "Gosh, Mr. Packard, it's amazing what you did. How did you do that?" He goes, "We really didn't do anything." He goes, "We were just on the tip of the rocket when it was taking off." That's a level 5 leadership attitude.
Yeah, that's right.
It was the people around that got him there. And Jerome, you're a level 5 leader. I've seen it. Yeah. And that's what's fascinating is that it's always, you have a hand down as much as you have a hand up.
Yeah.
You're ready to pull that next person up, and there's another rung you can get up too.
Yeah.
Gosh, thank you for that. Awesome podcast, bro. Thank you. Dang.
Well, I'm just glad to be a part.